Welcome, Maid Pushers. This is Mrs. Reed here with Ginny to say hello. Welcome to my YouTube video where we're going to talk about political parties today. She's just saying hi. Say hi. Hello to all the kids. Okay. Okay, so today I want to take you through the party system from the very beginning, and we'll go about up until the progressives or so, because I think that's the most convoluted. From then on, the 20s, Republican. Great Depression, Democrat. And it kind of fluctuates depending on foreign and domestic policy from there on out, everything we've been talking about. But I want to start at the very beginning and hopefully bring a bit more simplicity to it all and clarification on all the different political parties as they kind of weave throughout the history and redefine themselves over and over again. So I've got my visual aids to accompany us today. Let's start with the first two-party system, which is the first one to develop. That's 1780s to 1801. And this is the party that gets this is the system that gets the nation off to its start, except for Washington, who really had no political affiliation, although his ideologies will align with the Federalists. So our first two parties are Federalists and Republicans. There you go. Federalists and Republicans. The Federalists stood for strong central government, manufacturing, business. This is, they're concentrated in the Northeast. This is money. This is loose interpretation of the Constitution. This is the party of Hamilton. And most of the Founding Fathers will call themselves Federalists. This is also the party that will support Great Britain, and especially when it comes to the French Revolution and Napoleonic Wars. They'll be on the British side of things. This is the party of order and stability. And that sums it up, I think, to the best extent. This will be Washington for all intents and purposes, and then very much so Adams. Over to the other side with Republicans, of course, this is the party of Jefferson, and they will call themselves Democratic Republicans. So that term is synonymous here. Eventually it will just be Republicans, but they do call themselves Democratic Republicans originally. They're rural. They are states' rights. They are agrarian. They are for a strict interpretation of the Constitution. Republicans are for the West and the South. They're for France when it comes to the conflicts with the French Revolution. And they're for personal civil liberties. Government should be small and decentralized. And this will be the party of Jefferson, of course. I mentioned Madison, Monroe, who else is in there? And then Quincy Adams will also be a Republican. The reality is eventually it's one-party rule, because what happens after the Revolution of 1800, when Jefferson becomes president, the Federalist Party dies out, and really by 1815 and the era of good feelings, it's one-party rule, Republicans. And then soon after it will split into factions. You'll have the nationalist faction and the Jeffersonian faction. And really that is just a return to Federalists and Republicans for all intents and purposes, but their name for the time being is all Republicans, and eventually the party system will split. But the first two-party system, again, 1780s to 1801, is Federalists and Republicans. Okay, let's move on to 1824. 1824 we have called the Krupp bargain in the past. Let's talk about it really quick. You have one-party rule, but they're in factions. And on the nationalist faction, or the Northeast faction, or really you could call them Federalists, but they're not, is our bulldog of the Senate. Do you remember him? This is Quincy Adams. John Quincy Adams, and he will run against three other candidates. Well, actually there's 5 candidates originally, and he's one of them. Henry Clay is another, along with this guy. Jackson, who is now the hero of the War of 1812 and the Seminole War in New Orleans. And these guys all run on Republican platforms, and in the end, no one gets a clear majority. And Jackson will, of course, get the most votes in the Electoral College and the popular vote, but the Electoral College is where it matters. He would have needed 31 more electoral votes to have an absolute majority, because there were 4 in the end, one dropped out. It spread them out, and no one had the absolute majority. So it goes to the House. And I think originally what's key to get here with 1824 is that originally the Founding Fathers designed the system so that the popular will couldn't sway elections, and so that they imagined elections would go to the House more often than they end up doing, in fact. And so this was expected. It will be Jackson who, campaigning and calling it the corrupt bargain, who will change that for America and will push that the popular will be aligned with what happens in the Electoral College. And he will use that to campaign and then win in 28. So this is very revolutionary, this election. He would have needed 25,000 more votes to have had the popular vote. But again, at this time period, it was the Electoral College that mattered. And so the House of Representatives, chooses. Henry Clay, the Speaker, had influence. It went between the top 3, so he was technically out of the race, and he got his peeps to go Quincy Adams' way, which really Clay and Quincy Adams were of the same mind, so that worked out. They were basically nationalist Republicans to begin with, and Clay becomes Adams' Secretary of State, which at the time Secretary of State was known to the presidency. And so he wins, and of course Jackson is pissed. These guys duke it out, and he will win the next election, and Quincy will only have a 1-term presidency. Okay, let's move on.